I'm going to talk a bit about using technology and feedback to players and coaches. For me, software packages are a great way of speeding up and improving the quality of feedback from the matches to players and coaches. Even if we go a step back, it amazes me actually how many coaches I saw today in key matches that weren't even videoing the match or even had someone videoing it for them. Because for me, again, it comes back to, you know, a coach is watching and he has all the information in there, and he gives the player feedback during the match and a review after. But for me, when it's so simple to collect high quality video these days, then why not use that? And maybe you see some things that you didn't initially during the match, and it can lead to a variety of things, and I'll move on to explain about that. If you're a coach who's still burning DVDs for your player, then I'm afraid that's the dark ages now. And so we moved to cloud technology, so it's all about using Wi-Fi, uploading video to the cloud, and then the player can access that on his smartphone, and you don't have that delay process or unnecessary use of multiple devices. So we have to, again, one of the key messages I hope is coming across is that we have to move with the times, move with technology. Players love their smartphones. So if you ask them to use a laptop, actually these days they go, "Oh, coach, I'm not using the laptop." So let's embrace that. Let's not try and, you know, get them to do something which they're not happy with. Let's embrace that and get them involved in the process. Because if you lose the player and he's just nodding his head and thinking about where he's going next, then what's the point in doing all those things before? So we actually use a couple of software programs, Dartfish TV and Smarterbase, and I'll show you an example about how we integrate the two. As I've been doing for the last few days, whilst our players have been playing here, I've been video recording all the matches, and then I'll do some analysis from that video, specifically about how the players are winning and losing points, and therefore how they won or lost sets and matches. So we have a nice package in Excel which is automated so that I can input data and it produces summaries by a set or by the match, and then we can traffic light system, we can see where the player was winning or losing points. So for this I just put in a snapshot of one match report I did. So in this particular match, it was the passive player at the table that our player was losing points at, and he was in active play with his big forehand, he was winning lots of points. So that sort of information is nice to collate longitudinally, so we get a feel for the style of our player and the areas that we need to work on in training. So I'll show you this video because I wasn't sure if I had Wi-Fi. I just took a quick video before of. So we have an app, the players all have an app on their phones, so I control the access rights to this and uploading video and things. So there's different sub-levels which we can change, so a player can click on competition video, his name, he was sorting by the countries he played, what dates, whether he won or lost, and then assuming he has Wi-Fi access, he can then play the video. If you have a Wi-Fi signal, this can be a very quick process to get this on board. So by the time the player has played, gone back, showered, eaten, the video is there to review. When he's lying on his bed relaxing, he can open his smartphone, he can check the video, and the third set when I missed that forehand down the line, that was key or whatever, you know. So I think it's important, the timing of the feedback and the nature of the feedback.
Clips, it's not just the whole thing lumped on it, you've got it all in the categories, so like lost.
Yes, I add keywords to every video, so dates, the nature, was it competition or training or testing, the opponent, whether he won or lost, the scores.
You wouldn't have like a whole end on there, or would you? Would you have like the whole game up to 11, or would you have a section of it with the point you're trying to emphasise?
I would have the whole game on there. We can also clip certain points and add coaches' comments to them and save that as a separate video. So we always have the whole thing on there for it's a good practice to back up your data anyway, and we'll add certain text like the set and the score And then for highlights, we can, for example, after 1 month, if the coach comes to me and says, look, I really want to show this player all the examples from passive play in the match where he lost points. Can you take this match, this match, this match? I want 3 points from each, collate it into one clip. This is the comment I want you to add, and then send him that 20-second clip to review. So I'll database this video for key matches, or certainly upon the coach request, we'll do some further analysis, and I'll add this to Smarterbase, and then the coach can also add his evaluation comments so we can refer to those. So for this particular match, I uploaded the video, I did some analysis, and then the coach put his evaluation comments about the style of play of the opponent and how the player played, and areas that were good, areas that to work on in the future. And this is one place, it's stored, it's backed up, and everyone can access it. So it's not on my computer or the coach's computer, there's different access rights, but essentially it's there for people to access in the future, long after, maybe I'm gone or something. So talking points, what feedback is appropriate for players and coaches? I think that's key. How are you getting the feedback to the coaches and players effectively, in a timely manner, on the right platform? Yeah, so just to reiterate, for me it's key that what feedback you're giving, and is it effective? So I'm afraid, as I said, if you're still burning a DVD and giving it to them in a week later, then any good feedback you would have got from that is probably gone. The player's now thinking about the next tournament, or he forgot what the coach said about his backhand, whatever. Last example. So this video that we upload and that is shared between the service team members, it should in fact be used by all the members of a service team. So just because you're not the performance analyst or the coach, our strength and conditioning coach will review the matches to have a look and see how the play is moving, for example. And as I'll show here, the psychologist will look at the video also. So theory from textbooks is not so meaningful to a young player. So practical examples from his matches are. Well, I'll give an example here about body language, which is something that I suggested that we work with the player onto our psychologist. So athletes are not always aware of the extent to which they display non-behavioral patterns. So non-verbal behaviors have been thought to have a casual influence on the next point, and that's something that I picked up on a couple of years ago at the Sports Science Congress in Paris. So that gave me the idea that we can start using this video in a more productive manner. What I did from some of the matches of one of our best players, we looked at games against players of similar technical and tactical ability. So therefore we can say with a bit more confidence that perhaps the effect of body language is greater. So in this case, he won 3 of the matches and lost 2. And what we saw from the matches that he won, that he had 2.1 actions per point. So I hope you can see some of these actions: wiping the table, touching his shirt, touching the racket, touching his face, practicing the stroke, nonchalant attitude, fist pump, for example. So we identified these criteria, and that was using previous research. Games he lost, on the other hand, there were 3.4 actions per point on average. So we can see there's a difference there for this particular player. It may be different for another player. We looked at a couple of the key differences. So for a nonchalant attitude, this was a lot more prevalent when the player lost a point, which you can maybe expect. How is this happening to me? How did I lose this point? It should be winning. And again, as you may expect, when a player won a point, the fist pump was a lot more prevalent. We looked in further detail at this to try and establish a relationship between winning or losing the next point and the observance of that behavior. So when a player lost a point and he showed a nonchalant attitude, then he was 58% likely to lose the next point. And conversely, when a player won a point and showed a fist pump, then he was 62% likely to win the next point. So there may be some things there related to the player's emotional state. So this is interesting. So just from some very simple analysis of some video, we can start to profile a player based on his body language. This is perhaps stated in a textbook somewhere, but when we can show a player his actual video and reinforce some of the points with statistics, then this is a more powerful tool than just saying that we should have positive body language. So how does armed with this information, how does the psychologist go about trying to improve the performance? Well, he tells me that it's about using this information to identify the strengths and weaknesses of the player, and then setting SMART goals with a view to minimizing the behavioral patterns associated with failure, and conversely maximizing those resulting in success. And then it's about periodic monitoring and review of these goals with the performance analysis data, which I can provide the psychologist. So talking points: are we maximizing the output from the match video we collect? Are we just keeping it for ourselves, or are we sharing that on a platform that other practitioners can use and help the player develop from that? Are you, the coach, and the player aware of your strengths, weaknesses from a psychological perspective? And have you set goals, and is there a systematic approach to monitoring them? So that's a recurring theme. How are we monitoring what we're suggesting? Okay, so I'll try and summarize the approach. So for me, it's about having a good leadership. That guy driving the car has to be a good communicator. He has to let us know what are the goals for the program and what direction we're going. And we need to share all the data and ideas for the common good. There's no I in team is the classic phrase. So, just because I collect something, it doesn't mean it's my data. It belongs to the program, and it belongs to everybody who's involved in that. Please be open to new ideas, processes, and technologies. So step out of your comfort zone. Okay, it's not easy to embrace new things or get people involved in the process, but I can tell you from my experience, once people agree with the process and are on board, then it's so much easier. Now the coaches know that they just have to open this app and they can see the video. It makes everyone's life so much easier. Use each other's strengths for the betterment of the service team. So if you're very good at doing something but don't have the statistical knowledge to analyze the data, then pass that on and get someone else involved in the process. And please make all your approaches athlete-centered and service as a team. So bring it back to how can we help the table tennis player develop. So I'll stop there, and thanks for your nice input and for listening. I hope it was useful and informative and thought-provoking.